I remember when I was a child, Mum would go do food shopping for the family. With eager anticipation, I'd wait for her to come home so I could see what she bought. When she'd finally get home with the shopping, I didn't really care about the rice, the plantain, the bread, or even the pounded yam. No, I cared about the good stuff. You know, the Walker's crisps, the Skips, the chocolate bonbons, and sweets to name a few. But there was a problem. My mum wouldn't just leave the good stuff out with the rest of the shopping. No, she'd hide these things in an unusual place. A place not really meant for food. Her wardrobe. Why, you ask? Now she well knew from experience that shortly after buying the shopping, it would only take a day or two max and the food would be done. So what she'd do is this. She'd hide the good stuff. But she didn't realize that by her hiding the good stuff, my desire for them was increasing day by day. Now, I well knew if I were to get caught in the act of stealing these goodies, I would get in some serious trouble, to say the least. And not only that, I would be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed to be caught stealing crisps from a wardrobe. But guess what? That didn't matter to me. The reason why it didn't matter to me is because my desire had reached an all-time high. My desire had reached an all-time high because they were hidden. In fact, the whole thrill of doing this thing in secrecy actually made this thing more exciting. But I had to be wise about it. I couldn't just go in there gung-ho. No, I had to take the crisps out of the packet and then leave the pack in the condition I found it, just so that when Mummy next sees the goodies, she will not be able to realize that there are some goodies missing. I'd take the goodies into my room and I'd hide under my covers and finish those bad boys off. What are we talking about? Masturbation, pornography. This thing carries the same thrill in that we know we just can't openly do it. You will seldom hear a man, or even a woman for that matter, openly say they masturbate. The secrecy is a must. Late at night, lights off, laptop on, close the deal, clear that browser history. And the Bible's clear on this too. Proverbs 9 and verse 17 simply says this: stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. What does that mean? It didn't say bread eaten is pleasant. It said bread eaten in secret is pleasant. Just like when I was younger, there was a thrill that was attached to me stealing those crisps from the wardrobe. If my mum left those crisps in the cupboard where they're supposed to be with all the rest of the food, there wouldn't have been a thrill attached to it. Because she hid it, because I knew I could only do it in secrecy, I kept on going back, despite knowing if I was going to get caught, I would be in trouble all the time. So I kept on going back, kept on going back. Why? Because there's a thrill attached. There's a medical doctor, a doctor who's familiar with the mind. He loves studying the mind. His name is Alex Lickerman. He says this: it's biologically better for us to confess our secrets. Why? Because simply this: holding on to them puts the brain in an awkward, compromised position. There's a part of the brain called the cingulate cortex, essential to our emotional responses. This part of the brain is wired to tell the truth. But guess what? He says that when you keep a secret locked inside, you don't allow this part of the brain, you don't allow this cingulate cortex to perform its natural functions. Instead, that cortex becomes stressed. Now the Bible says this in James 5:16. We're trying to find out how to avoid doing things in secrecy, how to avoid becoming stressed over this issue. The Bible's got the answer. The Bible says this, James 5:16, confess your faults one to another and pray one for another that you may be healed. What does that mean? Let's make it practical. Let's not be all airy-fairy. Let's bring it down and be simple. Have you got a prayer partner? You're struggling with masturbation. Do you have someone that you can call to and pray with? Do you have a prayer partner? Someone who you can be accountable to? Do you have someone who in that moment when you want to masturbate, yes, when you want to do it, have you got someone on speed dial who you can call, who's going to pray for you in that moment? When you want to do it, but you deep down, you know it's wrong, but you want to do it. In that moment, have you got someone you can call? The Bible says you should have someone you can call. It says, confess your faults one to another. Tell your secrets one to another. And pray for one another. Do you have that person in your life? But guess what? The Bible goes deeper than that. It says this: the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. Meaning this: if when you call that person, yes, you've listened to the video, you've heard the step, you found your accountability partner, you found your prayer partner, but guess what? You call that prayer partner and that prayer partner doesn't answer. The Bible says the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. It works much. Meaning, in that moment, I've been there, I can testify. In the moment when you want to do wrong and you pray, when you go on your knees and pray, God says that prayer works much. It avails much. He can't reject that prayer. I'm saying there's victory in prayer. There's victory in being open. Don't keep this thing a secret. The enemy's a liar. He wants you to watch this video and leave and say, I'm telling nobody about this. Find an accountability partner and pray. So we've spoken about the person, just like when I was younger, who goes looking for the product, who goes looking for the food, who goes looking for the food just so he can eat it in secret. We've spoken about that person. But we need to understand that the thought, the desire, the lust doesn't always need us to come looking for it. Sometimes it comes looking for us. How do we deal with it when it comes looking for us? How do we deal with it when we just see that image flash across the screen? How do we deal with it when we see it on